Hello and welcome to Keeping It Young podcast, conversations about marriage, family, and ministry life. I'm Dave.
And I'm Bethlie.
And we are the Youngs.
And we're so glad you joined us today.
We are glad you've joined us today, and I hope you've had a wonderful day, wonderful week. It is an exciting time of the year. Fall is upon us, and depending on where you live, when we lived in Florida, that didn't change too much. But living here in the Midwest now, it's very obvious. The mornings are cooler, and the leaves are starting to fall. And we have some pretty large oak trees in our yard, so I have just had this little prophecy that I foresaw raking of leaves in my future here, and I already started this weekend, so it's very, very beautiful.
Somebody was telling me that they mulch their leaves, like they just mow them down and mulch it into the. I have never heard of that.
Some people do that, and we may try that and see, because our yard does need a little mulching.
There we go.
So maybe we can.
Who knows? But y'all need to pray about the fall color, because it's been so dry, and I think it's been dry everywhere.
Yes.
Maybe I'm mistaken in that, but especially I know here in Southeast Missouri, it has been so dry that we're not getting the beautiful color. We're just getting brown and then dead.
So we may have to go to Vermont or something, a little weekend trip.
Oh my goodness. I think we should.
Ooh, I might have misspoken there. Prayers appreciated for that one. But hey, let's jump in and get started here today. We have been doing a book series, or a podcast series about books.
Yes.
And we've entitled this Books That Can Help and Why. And I hope you guys weren't too scarred by that one last week, the sheet music. That really is an outstanding book.
It is.
And very, very helpful. There are several books along, in that genre. If you would like to know more about them, there's one. It's called Married Sex, and there's one by Dr. Gary Thomas. Is that the one by Dr. Thomas? That's an excellent one, and several others as well. Dr. Tim LaHaye has a couple of books. The Act of Marriage. He has one called The Act of Marriage After 40. And if you've never read the book, Intended for Pleasure by Dr. Ed Wheat, that is one we use in our premarital counseling to help Christian young couples to understand God's view of marital sexuality. And there's a couple of others in there that we've recommended through the years. There's several that are really good. And so it's always a good thing to be biblically informed and work on an important part of the marriage relationship. Today we thought we would look at a slightly different book. It's one that I have really, really profited from. This is an easy read. It's not super long. And it's entitled Solving Marriage Problems, subtitled Biblical Solutions for Christian Counselors. And it's actually written by Jay Adams. Any of you that know much about counseling at all would be very familiar with Jay Adams. He has a plethora of materials available, and all of his materials are really excellent. But his book, Solving Marriage Problems, would be profitable for any of you that work with couples. But if you are married, it is just worth reading. It really is an amazing, amazing, amazing book. And I've enjoyed it so much. So just highly, highly recommend it to you. And there's a ton in this book. And I love right away, early in the book, he makes this statement. And so we'll just jump right in here. Solving Marriage Problems by Jay Adams. You'll find this on page 2. Husbands and wives must grow as individuals in conformity to Christ in order to be compatible with each other. And I thought, wow, that is a great way to get this book started.
I absolutely agree. And I think a lot of times in our counseling, we start there. If you are working on your relationship with the Lord, if you individually are walking with the Lord, it automatically is going to bring you closer together. Even if one of you is walking closer to the Lord, it makes the relationship better automatically.
Yes. And the Bible does teach that. We find that, like in 1 Peter chapter 3.
Yes.
Where the Bible says, ladies, if your husband's not right and he's not obeying the word, then you win him. And he basically teaches there based on your relationship to God. If you are you're growing in the Lord, and husbands, that certainly will go the other way as well. But when a husband and a wife each are growing to be like Jesus, you're growing spiritually, it doesn't mean that all your problems will be automatically taken care of.
True.
Many of them will be. Some of them will just fall in place, because sometimes the things that cause us problems in a marriage aren't so much that we, have a major issue. It's just that we're just not walking with God.
Right.
A person that's not walking with God will be irritable, grouchy, hard to get along with, unthankful, ungrateful, uptight, angry, just list the whole gamut of negative emotions.
Prideful, selfish.
Absolutely. Yes. And once you get that taken care of and you're walking with the Lord in humility and gentleness and patience and love and long-suffering, just a lot of those things that cause issues in a marriage begin to solve on their own.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't, obviously the book is written to help us to solve issues. So if you start by growing in the Lord and then take biblical steps of obedience to God's word, you can solve any issue you're facing in your marriage.
Yes.
So he begins with there early in chapter 1 on what is this book all about? And he lists 4 things this book is about. The first one is it's about marriage problems of all sorts. And that ought to be actually maybe a little bit of encouraging, because I think sometimes couples don't get help
Right.
for their problem because they think, well, we're the only ones.
Or they think this is not that big of a deal. Why would I go see my pastor and wife about this? Or why would I ask about this to that godly older couple? And they just think it's insignificant compared to whatever. If
Right.
they compare it to another couple who may be having major marriage problems.
Yes, and what you'll find is that, and we said this so many times to our kids through the years, it's always best to take care of an issue when it's very, very small.
Yes.
The smaller the issue, the easier it is to take care of.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes you have a little issue that you think, well, it's not that big a deal. We'll just let it go. Don't let it go. If you can't solve things on your own and an issue is not getting better, please, for crying out loud, get help with that issue so that you can see things get better. So it's about marriage problems of all sorts. Number 2, it's about
causes of the problem.
and that's a good one. That one I really enjoy. I enjoy this part of this book, thinking about, okay, what causes this problem? Because sometimes you can take care of an issue in the moment, but if you don't deal with what the cause of that issue is,
Right.
It really doesn't solve the problem.
Well, if you have studied out counseling at all, which David and I are not certified counselors by any stretch of the imagination, but we have studied some on how to do things, you do know that the problem usually is not the problem. And so you have to dig a little further. And in counseling, in Christian counseling, they usually call that the root of the problem. You have to dig down and find out what exactly is causing that issue to come out.
Yes. And so then here's another reason or another matter what this book is all about. Marriage problems of all sorts, causes of these problems. Number 3, it's about ways of detecting, categorizing, naming, and describing problems in a biblical manner. And that really helped me a lot right there, reading that part of it.
Yes.
How do you detect what the cause is? How do you categorize it? How do you, put a name to it? And then how do you describe it in a biblical manner? And that really is the key words right there.
That is very key. I think especially in our culture where people are being diagnosed with brand new things left and right.
Yes.
And also in therapy, there's all kinds of terminology that necessarily would not equate biblically to helping the problem. It may, in a cultural way, kind of solve your angst, but it won't necessarily biblically get to the root of the problem.
So what is this book all about? Number 4, ways of reaching biblical solutions to marriage problems. And I'm telling you, this book really does that. So it's an easy read, Solving Marriage Problems by Jay Adams. We highly recommend it to you. And then just skipping around a little bit, let's talk a little bit about chapter 3 is entitled, What Causes Marriage Problems? And there were several things here I thought worth our pointing out. One of the first things he says is the basic cause of all marital problems is one word.
Sin.
And it's the word sin. But what he says is that sin manifests itself in 2 ways, in erroneous concepts and in sinful attitudes or practices. That oftentimes we can see the sinful attitude or the sinful practice, but it also has to do with an erroneous concept. And he deals with the fact that we are living in a world today where erroneous concepts abound.
Absolutely.
And Bethlie and I really see this on social media, on Instagram Reels. Sometimes what is intended for humor actually promotes an erroneous concept.
Yes.
And sometimes what someone is doing to try to get more likes and to get even money from their Instagram, I don't know what business,
right,
or whatever their Instagram influencer business, often is a promotion of things that just are not true biblically.
Right.
There probably has never been another generation that has to be so alert to make sure that we are discerning: is this right? Is this wrong? Is this true? Is this a lie? Is this correct? Is this false? We have to almost be on guard 24 hours a day in our culture because we're just bombarded. There's books, there's everywhere you walk into a store, there's a TV playing. Every waiting room, there's a TV playing. Our phones are scrolled constantly, continually,
Yes.
with information that is being poured into us. The news, many of our senior saints sit and watch the news over and over again and begin to believe erroneous concepts, and that will always then lead to sinful attitudes or practices. So this
Yes.
book is about the basic cause always being sin, but what that looks like.
And I would say not only that, it is true that we are bombarded with lies that are packaged in such a way, and Satan has done this since the beginning of time, but it's packaged in such a way that it can come across as true. And so we do have to be very, very careful. But I know even in our marriage where we are very careful about what we believe and why we believe it, and we're very careful to make sure that we are Bible-based on everything. We sometimes have a bad day when it comes to our relationship. I'm getting a look across.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And usually, and I think it's safe to say this, but usually when when our relationship seems a little abrasive with each other, it's usually because both of us have been wrong in some way. And when everything is solved and we are all, through the issue, and we both look back at it, well, maybe not you, I don't know, but I can look back and think, okay, I was being prideful there, or I was being stubborn there, or I was letting my emotions rule me instead of truth rule me. So you can, even in a really good marriage, if you look back on issues that you have, you can look back and say, yep, I was wrong there.
Yeah, I can look back and see that you were too.
Oh, and see, right after this recording, we're going to have to talk about some things and maybe have a come to Jesus meeting.
Maybe we will. And I can look back and see that the same thing is true in my own life. There's two other things he brings up in chapter 3. What causes marriage problems is the title of this chapter. And he says on page 12, wrong living will be changed only by rooting out the fundamental cause in a person's thinking. And he spends quite a bit of time on that. That chapter is worth reading because a lot of times we do live wrong. And we get this idea in our culture that, okay, we'll just change the behavior.
Right.
But really, the only way to really change is by finding the fundamental flaw. What has made me believe it's okay to behave like this, to respond like that? What was really going on in my heart, my thinking, my emotions? And that is a wonderful part of the book. That's a very helpful part. And then let's spend some time talking about this third thing I found in chapter 3. Correcting organic problems does not make everything better. An organic problem may include bad attitudes or develop or may cause bad attitudes to develop or cause a breakdown in communication. Correcting the problem does not automatically correct the attitude and the communication. Each of these have to be corrected separately. Now that was a huge help to me to understand that.
Yes.
Because we will find many times when we have an issue in our marriages, what we end up doing is we end up taking care of the issue. And especially if the issue has been over the long haul.
Right.
Because let's say, a person has an anger issue. If you have an anger issue, then that's going to show up your anger will affect everybody's attitude. It'll affect yours. It'll affect your spouse's. It will affect your children's.
Yes.
So the issue is anger, but because it's left untreated over the course of 6 months, a year, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years, well, now there's bad attitudes involved in it. And then because of the anger, there is a development of very poor communication. It may be that your children are afraid to speak to you because they have to discern, is dad or mom in a healthy place so we can, if I ask, they're not going to blow up at me.
Right.
It may be that your spouse is hesitant to bring things to your attention because she or he knows that, oh my goodness, if I bring that up, we're going to have World War III. It's just not worth it. And so then notice the anger developed into an attitude issue. It developed into a communication issue. I mean, it could spill over into all kinds of things, a trust issue,
Yes.
A hurt, maybe bitterness. So a person who all of a sudden says, you know what, I recognize that I have an anger issue and I need to take care of it. And they make it right, they confess it, they begin to memorize verses, they begin to apply God's word, and things don't get better. And the whole deal is, well, what is wrong with you people? I have gotten right with God. We can see that in purity issues where maybe there's been an
yes.
affair or there's been pornography, and a person all of a sudden comes clean and the affair is over, the pornography is cleaning up, and they're really taking huge steps forward of making things right and all is well, but things aren't getting any better in the marriage. It's because the battle, the affair, the adultery, the anger, the porn, whatever may be causing issues for the long haul, all of those other little things that spilled out of it have to be taken care of individually and corrected on their own now.
Yes.
Because now the poor communication has become a habit.
Right.
And that was such a help to me to see. We see that quite often, don't we?
Oh, yes. And often, and when couples will come to us, there is sometimes, not always, that there is sometimes a glaring sin on the part of one of them. And so some big thing has happened. Let's say it's adultery. Some big thing has happened. The couple has a big blow up. Then they come to us. And so in the course of that, yes, does the adultery need to be addressed? And everything from the immoral relationship shut down? Absolutely. Does the person who has committed adultery need to repent and make things right? Absolutely. But usually the other spouse thinks everything's okay. Everything should be fine. And then they wonder, okay, well, yeah, they're making things right. Why are we still struggling? Why am I struggling to communicate with them? Why am I struggling to love them? Why am I struggling to be affectionate? So many different things. Well, all of that is sometimes a fallout of what has happened. And so all of that then needs to be addressed individually towards the other person. And it can be very difficult if you are not the perpetrator of the main sin to think to yourself, okay, there are a few things I need to fix too. And so it can take a while for you even to get there, and then for that couple to realize, okay, yes, there's some other things we need to work on. Communication has broken down, affection has broken down, all kinds of different things have broken down, and we as a couple, both of us need to work on it.
Absolutely. So I really thought chapter 3 was excellent. I think we have kind of can jump into chapter 4, at least get it started before we run out of time today. Chapter 4 in his book is about unbiblical concepts about marriage. And I thought that there's several things he said in here that was really great. He said the purpose of marriage is to meet man's need for companionship. And he goes back to the Garden of Eden. When God gave marriage to us in his creation, he created Adam, and there was not a helpmeet. There was no companion for Adam. And basically what he says is that marriage appears to have been designed to defeat loneliness. And he makes this statement, and tell me what you think about this one. Companionship, therefore, is the essence of marriage. The essence of marriage is friendship, companionship, the two of us together, having a relationship. That's the essence of marriage. Do you agree with him on that?
I do. I absolutely do. Well, why do people get married anyway? It's because they love spending time with that person, and they think, you know what? I can't live without you. I want you with me 24/7 or as much as you can, having a job and all of the different things like that. I want you with me. So yes, I would agree with that.
And I remember the word when I was back in seminary, as we're studying Hebrew. If I remember correctly, the Hebrew word man and the Hebrew word woman are very closely related, to the point it is when Adam named Eve woman, he basically was saying, this is wonderful. There's now another me.
Right.
And in a marriage, you've heard us say this on this podcast many times, marriage is about we, not me.
Yes.
And it's because when there's another me, what we're doing is we're coming together, we're growing together, we're in this together, we're companions together.
Yes.
And so I love that idea, that companionship, therefore, is the essence of marriage. And he even says in here, and he deals with this issue of fornication, adultery, and he puts in polygamy. This is why he says fornication, adultery, and polygamy are wrong. They vitiate, I think I said that word right.
Yes.
They vitiate true companionship because they destroy the intimacy of a constant, close relationship.
Absolutely.
When fornication comes into a marriage, there's sexual sin, intimacy is destroyed between your closest relationship. When there's adultery, you're violating that promise of companionship.
Yes.
When there's polygamy, the reason polygamy is so wrong is it's impossible for a husband and wife to be as close and intimate as God designed them
Right.
if there's two wives. I think it always goes two wives. I don't know if there's any situation where there's two husbands.
Right. I think in folklore, the Amazonians might have had more than one husband, but that we don't generally think about that in our culture. We generally think of a certain religious sect who in time past has promoted or dabbled in polygamy, but I'm just sitting here thinking, absolutely not. I would not share you with anybody.
Well, that's good because I'm all yours.
I know.
Here's the last thing about chapter 4. He said the obligation of marriage is to vow to provide companionship for another for the rest of their lives. And I'm going to say that again. The obligation of marriage is to vow to provide companionship for another for the rest of their lives. And I guess, reading this is the first time I'd heard it put in that kind of language, that the idea of marriage is, the vow is, I will be your companion from now until we die. I will be your companion. I will be your friend. I will pursue a relationship with you and only you, which just reminds me of why we have to be so careful in our culture. What's called the Billy Graham rule, or the Vice President Mike Pence rule, as it later began to be known when it was debated. This idea that as a husband, I will not eat with another woman by myself and her. I won't text. I won't, I'm not going to be having an intimate conversation with another woman at a meal, at a restaurant, in a car, via messaging, because my relationship is yours.
Right.
And I'm to pursue a companionship with you.
Right.
And it's just a beautiful thing to talk about here. He makes this statement that marriage is not about receiving companionship, but about giving it.
Yes.
If you come to a marriage and you've allowed your marriage to get to the place of where you're blaming each other, but he won't meet my needs. She doesn't meet my needs. He does this. She does that. And it's this blame game. We're really missing the essence of marriage. What we have to do to make a marriage really great is not only deal with the issues that's destroying it, and then all the fallout that came through the issues that we've been dealing with that hasn't been taken care of.
Right.
And so that's in that chapter 3. But then we get to chapter 4. The idea is that we're to live for each other, to where I'm continually pursuing my companionship with you. I give to you to meet your needs, to make sure you're not lonely, to make sure you're cared for, to make sure that your emotional needs are met.
Absolutely.
And in a marriage, when we both do that, that becomes a beautiful picture of Christ. It's the highest pictures he can give in the Bible.
Yes.
It's Christ in the church. It's heaven on earth, and so forth. That is a wonderful statement.
I would even go so far as to not say that it all hinges on whether you're being faithful, as far as like adultery, or even just I don't know. It's just so culturally acceptable for you to be pals with someone of the opposite sex, and they're just my friend, and we hang out and talk, and we do things together, and we might go to lunch together, or we message each other. You won't find that in the Word of God. The only person that, once you're married, that you should have that kind of relationship with is your spouse. But I would go so far as to say that busyness keeps us from that companionship. Sometimes we just get in that season of busy, and we don't connect at all. And so husbands and wives are wondering, why do I not feel so connected to you? Why am I feeling kind of bereft of that companionship? It's because you've just been so busy. So it's not that sometimes you can't do anything about the busy season. You just got to buckle down and go through it. David and I are in a pretty busy season right now, but doing your best to, even though you're in that busy season, taking the time to connect some every day, just to talk to each other and find out how you're doing and what's going on with you and what can I help you with, and different things like that. So I think that's amazing and wonderful. Yes, companionship is essential.
And it takes time and talking.
Yes.
We have to talk, and it takes time to do it.
Yeah.
And so investing in your marriage in that way is excellent. So Bethlie and I are recommending to you Solving Marriage Problems by J.E. Adams. This is our series about books that can help and why. We have one more. We'll have a second part to examining this book, and we'll get that next week. Thank you so much for joining us today. And of course, you've been listening to the Keeping It Young podcast. Reach out to us if we can help you in some way. If you'd like just to make a comment or share some, insight or some thought you have, we would love to hear from you. And of course, you can visit our podcast website at the keepingityoungpodcast.com. You can listen on Spotify, anywhere. If you're on one of these podcast sites that allows you to leave a rating, consider doing so. That helps us, and it also helps to promote us and let us know that you're listening, and we're always happy and thankful to do that. Well, I hope you have a great week ahead. Thanks for listening today, and whatever else you do, make sure that you serve the Lord with gladness.